Hey guys, I am so excited. Today is the final chapter of your brave man, Julius Zimmerman, and hopefully he's reached some of his goals like potty training, Edison Blue, sorry. I'm kind of curious of where everything's going to go with Octavia and how things kind of play out with his mom. His mom seems a little disappointed in everything that he's doing. So let's read chapter 14. On Friday morning, Julius was more nervous than he'd thought he'd be. Remember, this is the day of the Cinderella in French. What if Octavia came? What if Octavia didn't come? Would Madame Cowper like her present? Julius had thought it was perfect when he found it at the mall yesterday afternoon. But what did he know about anything? And would he make a fool of himself giving it to her? I think it's amazing how he's kind of changed his his tune or like his opinion or how he feels about Madame Cowper, because just by wanting to buy her a present kind of makes me think his feelings about her have changed. Would Madame Cowper tell his parents that he had run off with Octavia on the class trip? That would hardly be a story to gladden his mother's heart. Would his mother be disappointed in him yet again when she heard him stammer his two pathetic lines in the play with the worst French accent in the class? When Ethan came to get Julius so they could ride to school together, Ethan looked as miserable as Julius felt. Oh, I forgot. He has like the lead for the boy. His face bore the set look of a soldier about to have his leg amputated without anesthesia. It'll be over in 3 hours, Julius told him, trying to sound encouraging. 180 minutes, Ethan said. 10,800 seconds. Put it that way, it didn't sound encouraging at all. In the classroom, it was all chaos. As kids muttered their lines to themselves, scrambled to their makeshift costumes, that lets me know that they're kind of nervous. Julius wore black sweatpants and a black sweatshirt to be the rat, with a rat mask he had made out of a paper bag. Once he became a coachman, he would quickly slip off his mask and slip on a fancy jacket that Madame Cowper said belonged to her husband. So there was a Monsieur Cowper? That was a strange thought. Ethan wore a prince costume loaned by the middle school drama teacher, with the pants pinned up because Ethan was shorter than the typical middle school prince. Lizzie had brought her own rags, well, maybe the ones she had worn in her garret in Paris, but her ball gown was also a drama department loan. She actually looked pretty when she had it on, with her blue eyes blazing bright and her red curls bouncing. Julius wondered if Ethan had noticed. The program would be performed in the school all-purpose room. The first guests began arriving at 10. Julius waved to his parents, glad that Madame Cowper was too busy with last-minute costume adjustments to chat with anybody. So far, so good. He saw Ethan's mom and older brother Peter. Ethan's dad had to work. He recognized Lizzie's mother, short like Lizzie, and hair almost as red. Julius, Julius, Julius! Edison ran up to him, and, touched by the exuberance of the greeting, Julius swung him up for a hug. Behind Edison came Mrs. Blue, looking sheepish, that means a little shy, pulling Edison's little red wagon. In the little red wagon sat Edison's potty. One of the many parenting magazines came yesterday, Mrs. Blue began apologetically, and it had an article on toilet training, and it said that for the crucial first weeks of training, it's important not to go away from home, and if you do, take the potty with you. This has to be quite the sight. Julius stared at her. I hope you don't mind, Mrs. Blue said, her face suddenly anxious. I can imagine her face turned beet red. Mine? No, of course not. If Alex found out that one of Julius's guests for the play was a potty and teased him about it for the rest of his life, that was the way it was just going to be. My potty likes plays, Edison said. Julius had never realized how piercing Edison's high-low voice was until it uttered this particular sentence in hearing range of all of Julius' classmates. They probably all stared. Well, I hope it will like this one, Julius told him. Back with his class again, he scanned the room for Octavia. Remarks about potties were usually her cue for a grand entrance, but he didn't see her anywhere. Not that he thought she would actually come, only he had thought she would come. In any case, she wasn't there. It was time for the program to begin. Madame Cowper, magnificent in a flowing Moroccan dress, which suited her better than her usual pantsuits, stepped up to the microphone. She beckoned to the cast in their costumes to crowd around her. Bonjour, families and friends. Today we present to you a piece, a little play. She went on with a speech about how they had all learned in the past 5 weeks about how much she had enjoyed having them as students. Julius knew she couldn't have enjoyed having him as a student. Someone who couldn't put a quiche in the oven without spilling it all over the floor. Someone who couldn't even put his right foot in and take his right foot out in the hokey pokey. As Madame Cowper's speech wound to a close, Julius's palms turned clammy. He's getting nervous. It was time for him to make his speech. Since it was his idea to give Madame Cowper the present, he felt it was his responsibility to do it. Excuse-moi, Julius said. Ooh, listen to that French. Stepping forward from the rest. We have a present for you, Madame Cowper. Thank you very much. He felt foolish saying it in French, especially in his French, but he had decided to do the thing all the way if he was going to do it at all. Pour moi, she said. Like, for me? Madame Cowper sounded so genuinely pleased and surprised that Julius wondered fleetingly what Alice was thinking right then. Was he a little bit sorry he hadn't contributed anything? She tore off the wrapping paper and lifted the top of the box. Then she pulled out a scarf with Monet's water lilies printed on it. Julius hadn't been able to believe his eyes when he had found it on sale in the regular department store at the mall. Oh! Madame Cowper gave a long sigh of ecstatic appreciation, sounded almost like Lizzie Archer, as she held up the scarf for everyone to see. The applause was loud and long. Ethan and Lizzie were clapping hardest, of course, but the others were clapping as well, including Marcia. Even Alex was clapping, as hard as if he had picked out the present himself and helped pay for it. The play began. Lizzie, as Cinderella, sat alone in her ashes. Marcia, as wicked stepmother, was mean to her. So far, it seemed like ordinary school. During his first few moments on stage, Julius acted as much as he could like a rat, even though Octavia wasn't there to critique his tale. Cinderella's fairy godmother appeared. Yes, Cinderella was going to the ball. Just as Julius whipped off his rat mask and got ready to whip on his coachman jacket, a piercing little voice from the side of the stage summoned him out. Julius, my baby is ready to come out. Oh my gosh. Mrs. Blue had hurried after Edison was trying to shush him. Edison, Julius has to be in the play now, honey. Edison was hopping from one foot to another, clutching his shorts, looking exceedingly like a toddler who had to go. I want my baby to come out in the potty, Edison wailed. Julius shot a frantic look at the fairy godmother. She was still working on transforming Cinderella's rags into a ball gown. He had a minute, maybe two. He dropped his jacket and mask, slipped off the stage, and raced with Edison, Mrs. Blue, and the little red wagon out to the hall. Oh, Julius, do you think? Mrs. Blue breathed. I'm still mortified for him. Julius expertly tugged at Edison's pull-on diaper and positioned the potty for him to sit on. There came a small tinkling sound that could mean only one thing. It came out! Edison danced around his potty as best he could with his shorts diaper still bunched around his ankles. Look, Julius, look! It came out! Julius looked, hoping this was the last time in his life he would be called upon to admire anyone's potty. Then from inside the all-purpose room he heard the fairy godmother's voice, tinged with exasperation, announcing in empathetic French that now this rat would become a coachman. Oops. Julius sprinted back to the stage. Panting, he shrugged into his jacket and presented himself to the irate fairy godmother. A long silence followed. Wasn't someone supposed to say something? He was supposed to say something. Lizzie, radiant in her ball gown, whispered the line to him. Julius gasped it out. He was supposed to say another line, too. Now or later on? There was another long silence. Okay, he was supposed to say it now. He said it. At last the play was over, and all that was left was the hokey pokey. Julius shook his body parts as best as he could, knowing that half the time he was putting the right foot in when it was supposed to be taking the left foot out. The reality of it was reality of what had happened outside in the hallway finally hit him. Edison had made pee-pee in the potty, and the glory of that moment belonged to him. Julius. When they returned for refreshments back in their classroom, Julius grabbed a croissant. He took one big buttery bite and turned around to find his mother standing right in front of him. Oh, Julius, he said. Oh, Julius. Her old Julius carried on such a different meaning from Mrs. Blue's. Oh, Julius. Where did you go? I felt so sorry for that girl playing the fairy godmother. She stood there without the faintest idea what to do. His mother looked as if she was trying to keep herself from saying more, but she couldn't do it. Julius, the whole point of the babysitting job was to help you learn more responsibility. Oh, Julius, what am I going to do with you? She's so disappointed, but yet he does such a great thing. Nothing, I guess, Julius muttered. There's nothing more you can do with me. His post-PP exhilaration had evaporated. He felt someone tugging at his leg. Edison. The little boy's tight hug brought Julius's eyes to tears that hadn't come with his mother's scolding. Mrs. Blue put her hand on Julius's mother's arm. You must be very proud of Julius. Julius' mother hesitated before responding, as if wondering what feature of Julius's performance in the play or the hokey pokey could have inspired such a comment. Oh, we are, she said slowly. He is just working wonders with Edison this summer. Edison is blossoming because of Julius. That's the only word for it. Blossoming. And do you know what happened just now? Mrs. Blue lowered her voices, if the miracle about to be revealed were too sacred to be spoken out loud. Edison used the potty. For the first time. Right now. During the play. And Julius was kind enough to rush away from the play to help him do it. I don't know any other boy his age who would give so much to a young child. Julius, I can't thank you enough for this morning. For everything. Julius let himself look at his mother. Now she looked ready to cry. I think Julius has a gift, a real gift with working with children, Mrs. Blue went on. I was telling Patty Winfield about him, and she said Edison talks about Julius all the time at school, too. Patty said when Julius is old enough to get a real summer job, she'd be glad to help him get one at Little Wonders. A job working with lots of little kids like Edison Blue all day long? Julius never would have believed that the thought of it could make a slow smile spread across his face. His dad came up to them. Son, I sure enjoyed that hokey pokey, he said with a big grin. As Julius's dad led Mrs. Blue and Edison to the refreshment table, Madame Cowper appeared and pumped Julius's mother's hand. That means she shook it really hard. For a moment, Julius thought she was going to kiss his mother on both cheeks, but she didn't. Madame Zimmerman, I have so enjoyed knowing Julius. Was she kidding? Madame Cowper put her arm around Julius's shoulders. Julius, she said the words with unusual distinctness in French, to help Julius's mother understand what she was saying. She couldn't, of course. Julius couldn't either, because remember, he's not good at French. Julius has a big heart, she translated, with the same exaggerated emphasis of each word. On our class trip, he leaves us. For half an hour, he leaves us. I worry. I fret. My hair turns gray. Why does he leave us? Because he sees a friend, and she is crying. That is Julius. Madame Cowper fingered the Monet scarf which she had tied around her neck. And this scarf. It is not an easy task to find the right present for someone of my age. An old woman. A woman whom some call cow. Eh? No, Julius Zimmerman? He has a big heart. With that, she left to talk to the other parents. Oh, Julius. He turned to face his mother. I had no idea. Somehow I thought things this summer weren't working out for you. Did you really toilet train Edison and all those things your teacher said? Oh, Julius, you and I are so different. It's hard for me sometimes to see that. Well, your goals may not be the goals I picked for you, but they're your goals, and I'm proud of you for accomplishing them. I hope you know that. I'm proud of you. She reached her arms out to him, and Julius gave her a quick, stiff hug and then pulled away to bring himself back under control. It wasn't turning out to be such a bad summer. Intensive summer language learning and Edison Blue had both been his mother's ideas. But Julius had to admit, they had worked out all right in the end, even if they hadn't worked out exactly the way his mother had planned. Unbelievable as it seemed, he had accomplished almost everything on his goal list. He had redeemed himself in French class and even learned some French. Edison had used the potty. His mother understood him a little bit better. The only thing he hadn't done were to cheer up Octavia and read A Tale of Two Cities. He'd return the book tomorrow. Maybe he'd check out some books on child development instead. The end. I am dying to know if Octavia showed up. Or why, if she didn't, why didn't she? So I know that there are other books that have Julius Zimmerman as a main character. So you should look them up. There is one before. It's called Losers, Inc. That is the prequel to this story. But Claudia Mills, I think you'd enjoy this story.